So good afternoon. This is the second attempt at the Bowls England video recording that I hope will help you guide yourselves through the Open for Community portal, which has been procured on your behalf by Bowls England. And there's a couple of things at the beginning I'd just like to show you or highlight to you. So what I'm highlighting at the moment is the URL, and this is where you'll find the site. So it's www.idoxopenforcommunity.co.uk/Bowls England. And by putting that into the system or into your browser and clicking enter, that'll take you directly to the site. For purposes of communicating with me, my name's Matthew Godfrey, and my email address, if you need to ask me any questions, is Matthew, that's 2 T's, .Godfrey @idoxgroup.com. Idox is spelled IDOX. Okay, for those that haven't registered onto the portal or want to know how to log in, it's very simple. Here you'll see login or register. All you need to do, particularly if you're newly registering, is click on that. As you can see here, I'm automatically populated. My logon information is, and you can do that by clicking remember me, so you won't have to use or remember your passwords, etc. But if you are new to the portal and are registering, then all you do is follow a step-by-step process. So in here I shall put in my name, organisation name, but as you'll see here, you've got region or club. So as a prerequisite from Bowls England, they wanted to make sure that only you guys had access to this. So you would identify the area of the country that you fall into, your club falls into, click on that, and as you can see, there is an optional button drop here, and there'll be a list of all the clubs that are within the Buckinghamshire region in there, and all we ask you to do is to identify which is your club and then fill in the rest of the details here. You can set your own password, and all you need to do is confirm the password. So that's you pretty much ready to go with the system. However, what I would advise you to do is the system produces, or we produce as an organisation, some very informative funding news alerts. I would suggest that you tick that box and then you'll get those into your inbox automatically, and that will contain information across the spectrum of grants, what may be new, any updates, so on and so forth. So maybe worth keeping an eye on that. What you will need to do is accept the terms and conditions. If you do wish to read the terms and conditions, if you go to view terms and conditions, full details are contained on that hyperlink. In here, from a GDPR compliance point of view, we do have to request that you consent for your data to be stored, and all we ask is that you tick I consent to Idox Software Limited using my data for the above purposes, and then register. I've already registered, so I don't need to go through that process. So because I've ticked remember me, if I click login now, all being well, that'll take me directly back to the site. And as you can see, it's got the Bowls England logo on it. So if you do want to check your details just to make sure they're correct, all you do is go to view your details, and that'll just replicate the information that you've just put into there. And if you wanted to reset your password, you can do so from there, but that is just a replication of the process that we've just been through. Okay, you won't see this administration tab here. Because I work for Idox, I get access to that. I'm going to take you through each of these steps, oddly going from my right to left. If you go into help and advice, in here you have information that may well be useful for you. Just bear with me for a moment while the system catches up with me. In here you have the user guide. which by definition is a user guide on how to use the system. So anything that you're unsure of, but feel free to download that and keep that saved to your desktop for reference purposes. But we also give some expertly written documents which may help you both now and as and when you're writing bids and applications. So anything that you see in here is yours to do with what you wish. And as you can see here, how can you apply for funding? What are funders looking for? So on and so forth, making a successful application. Unfortunately, we can't help you write the bid, but we are trying our utmost to give you as much information as possible to make it easy and enabling you to write a successful bid. There's also a news feed that goes into all of our systems, including your portal, and this is a generic funding news, national news. And as you can see here, you've got a number of news articles that have been populated onto the system by our expert content team. And if you wanted to look for previous news articles, all you would do is click on the previous month, and that would take you back through obviously June, May, April, March, etc. Okay, so there are two ways of searching for funds. I'm going to briefly show you what we call iframe searching or browse funding. And what we've done in this area is the system knows of the grants that sit in each of these sections. These sections are predefined by our conversations at the front end of our relationship with Bowls England. However, having said that, we have recently added the registered charity because I believe from our call on the Friday before last, there were a number of bowls clubs that may fall into the registered charity sector, which is great because as you can see, the registered charity sector holds quite a lot of grant and funding information in there. So basically with this part of the system, all you do is filter results further by going to this section here or where it says filter results further, clicking on that, and then that takes it down to the next project or the project level. And the project is ultimately what you're looking for funding for. I can't advise you what to look for, but what I would say is think outside of the box. There are a number of grants that sports and cultural organisations such as yourself can at least look at and apply for that aren't just about maintaining your clubs and maintaining your clubhouses. For example, if we took a quick look in health and social welfare, you can see there's 128 grants that sit in health and social welfare. And in here, what you'll see are a number of grants that are around social relief and welfare, support for disadvantaged groups, help awareness and preventative measures. So if you look in social relief and welfare, for example, you'll see that that will take you to funds on a national level that are available for grants are available for community organisations and clubs to support sport and physical activity in deprived areas of the Black Country. But this might also have grants whereby you engage with older people, younger people, disadvantaged people. So as you can see, it's not just a case of looking for grants for you as a club and what your club needs to maintain the grounds and so on and so forth. Personally, I believe search for funding is a more bespoke way of getting to the results that you want to get to. So if you don't mind, that's where I'm going to go next. So search for funding. So as you see, you've got a step-by-step process, all pretty self-explanatory, that you'd need to go through to get to the results that you want to get to. So what you need to do is identify the kind of organisation that you are. Okay, so you are a bowls club, but you may also be a bowls club that is a registered charity and or a voluntary and community organisation. The reason we have school in there, it could be that you want to engage with schools to get, a younger generation of bowlers so that you've got this pipeline of varied abilities, young people that are coming into the game of bowls. And it could be that you want to start to talk to schools about that engagement. And this enables you to partner up with schools so that school can apply for grants for themselves to help, I suppose, supplement your membership. But you can cross tick, or you can cross reference across all of these groups, or if you're just looking for a charity or as a registered charity, all you would do is untick the other two boxes here, and what you're ultimately doing is telling the system the kind of organisation that you are. So at the moment you're a registered charity, but obviously, like I said before, if you're a registered charity and a sports organisation and a voluntary and community organisation, that's going to open up, I wouldn't like to say a can of worms because that's a cliche, but it will open up a number of different types of grants that you may not have considered as part of what your project plans are for the next 12 months. There is a lot of funds sitting in registered charity and voluntary and community organisations, which I think would be of interest to quite a lot of the clubs. So then it asks you, what is your area of work? And again, we've limited the scope within the system to make sure that the results that are fed into it are nice and focused for you. So at the moment, all we have in here is providing sports equipment and facilities. Wherever you see a triangle, there is an option to search further or to identify more specific search criteria. Again, I'm going to tick all of those boxes and that box. So at the moment, you're telling the system, as you can see, that you're a registered charity, a sports or cultural organisation, voluntary and community organisation, and this is what you're doing. This is what you're looking for. Then it asks you here about the project. So what are you looking for funding for? So if you click on that, then in here, again, there's numerous options that are available for you, some which will be, unfortunately, have to be included because the system doesn't allow us to omit them. But in here, you might have community building projects, you might have community projects, regeneration and renewal, obviously. You might be working with schools as a way of, kind of using bowls as combating crime with schools, rehabilitation, victim support, whatever. Education, employment and training, again, similar situation. You might want to, training for your club members. It doesn't necessarily have to be for you as an individual, but there may be some training grants in there that you just don't know exist. Environment, again, there might be some projects that you may not have thought of or have ongoing that are all about environmental improvement, pollution prevention, waste and recycling, health and social care. So again, yeah, this is where you've got things like health awareness and preventative measures, social relief and welfare, support for disadvantaged groups. So as you can see, there's various choices in here that aren't just about you as a club seeking funds to cut grass or to sustain a bar. There's a lot in there. So sport, tourism and leisure. So again, you probably want to tick both of those. And transport, infrastructure and communications. Infrastructure is about buildings. Transport may be minibuses. You may want a new minibus for the club. So all you do is identify the kind of projects, and you can do a specific project-centric search by just ticking maybe one or two boxes, or you can do a general search. And the general search is a good way of getting a good flow of information into your inbox, into your email, because there's a lot of what we call nudge technology functionality within the system. So you can set up kind of like email alerts, as you remember from the beginning, setting up a news feed. You'll get information about any new funds and any closed funds that reopen. Again, allowing you not to miss out on any potential funding opportunities. So if you click OK, so as you can see, it's quite a vast or a varied search criteria. You can, in where we've got here, what cost you want to cover. So again, if you're only looking for funds that were associated with maintaining buildings, costs associated with maintaining lands, you can tick those boxes. And now all you're doing is going into the system or telling the system that you're only interested in seeing grants that are appropriate for maintaining and maintaining buildings and lands. So I'm going to untick those just to kind of show you, I suppose, more potential of the system. But as you see, you've got transport in here, renting or hiring premises, purchasing furniture, even paying staff. If you leave it blank, it just goes into the system and looks for it all. But if you identify, then it looks specifically. And then further down here, what you have is where will your project to be undertaken? So in other words, where are you? And as you can see, you've got every area of the country covered. I'm going to use the West Midlands simply because that's where I live. But obviously, as you can see, you've got key areas within the West Midlands. And all you're doing with this is you're not omitting anything that's regional or national. You're just allowing yourself, when you pull all the results into one place, it allows you to streamline them into local, regional, national and European type funds. So you're not going to admit anything that sits outside of the West Midlands. You're just giving yourself the opportunity of being able to streamline it. Okay, so the keyword search here, a really strong piece of functionality of the system, and it may be that this is almost a starting point for some. It's a way of bypassing the need to put in all this information here by just putting in a key phrase or a keyword. So it might be that you want to put in maintaining buildings or buildings. So what you do is you just put in buildings and you click exact phrase and then do a search. But you can use this keyword search in conjunction with anything you've already input into the system or in isolation. So I'm going to leave that out for the purposes of today. So then all you do is click search now. And now what you're doing is, based on the criteria that you've put into the system, you're asking for it to tell you how many grants or what grants are available. Okay, before we start filtering with the information over here, what I'd like to do is just show you what sits beneath each of the funds or the information that we want to give you to enable you to work out whether or not it's worthy of making an application or writing a bid. As you can see, this is new, and it's our job to identify any new funds that go onto the system, obviously identified by a new icon. If it's been updated and something's been added to it, that will say updated. So to find out more information about that specific fund, all you do is click on the hyperlink, and then you'll see there's varied bits of information that we give you, including a description, what maximum value is available, whether or not if it's open or closed, of course, what the objectives of the fund are. So as you can see, local fund available in the most deprived areas of Wolverhampton, Sandwell, Walsall and Dudley, as well as a number of themed funds focusing on the following key areas: active sustainable travel, domestic violence supporting vulnerable women, men and or children, or mental health. So again, thinking outside of the box, this might be suitable for somebody that has a club in Wolverhampton, Sandwell, Walsall, that wants a project that kind of promotes bowls as a way of dealing and helping with mental health. The fund is intended to support organisations and groups in the greatest need. So the fund is designed to target audiences comprising of the following: so lower socio-economic groups, Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities, disabled people, people with long-term health conditions. And then again, there's more information in there. I'm not going to go through all of it because it'll be time consuming for all concerned. So here you go. Provide funding for community groups working within the Sport England target audiences to remain connected with their participants and keep them active during the coronavirus. So, from a bowls club point of view, there's a number of boxes that could be ticked here. Then we talk about value notes, how much is in there, how much you're going to hopefully receive, whether or not there's any matched funding requirements. Then we talk about who can apply. So as you can clearly see, as a sports club, you in Wolverhampton or the Black Country, apologies who don't know where the Black Country is, but think about a Brummie accent, a very, very strong Brummie accent, and you'll be pretty much there. So sports clubs, as you can see, highlighted. Further information about exactly where you need to be within the defined areas. Any restrictions. So in other words, if you fit or you match any of these, you're not going to be able to have funding for those. So if you're a sole trader, no point making an application. If you're looking for this to pay for staff costs, then you're not eligible for that. What you are eligible for will also be highlighted here. Sorry, as you can see, eligible expenditure. And then how to apply. There is generally an external link directly to the Active Black Country emergency funding page. But what we also do further on up here is give you the contact details that you'll need to start that relationship with the funders. So these are the people that you need to talk to, and you start your relationship with the funder. When it comes to writing applications or thinking about writing an application, the more you talk to, in this case, Jennifer Oakes, the more information you're likely to get from them. It's all about building relationships. It's almost a sales role. The more they know about you, the more info they'll give you, and they may even give you some information that will help you bid that somebody that hasn't rung isn't going to have. So as you can see, you've got contact information. If you wanted to save that, you've had a look at that and you think it's worthy of saving, all you do is save this item, and then that item sits up here in your save searches. But I will show you how to get back and how to save searches in a bit more detail in a moment. So that in essence is what we give you in terms of the individual funds, and that is pretty much the same on every single fund. You may not get a personal contact name, but you'll have generics. So to come out of this, to go back to your main search, all you do is click go back. And as you can see, that just returns you directly back to the full report. From here, there's a number of actions that you can undertake with that data. You're not going to lose this data here by playing with it on the right-hand side. You can always get back to it. So you can filter by funding source. So if you're only interested in government, you would click government and apply filter. If you're interested in all of them, you just leave it blank. Personally, I would leave it blank because you're then going to get all that information. Filter by funding type. At the moment, it's reporting on all of those different funding streams. So if you're only interested in grants, you tick grant and apply filter. You don't have to do these apply filters independently. You can go through the whole of this, the filter service on the right hand side, and then apply the filter. But I'm just showing you now that I suppose the options that are available to you. So you can filter by geographic scope. So again, automatically it's reporting on local, regional, national, and European. If you only wanted to see national, you would click apply filter. And again, leaving them all blank just means that you can report on all of them. But as you can see here, at the moment, it's automatically defaulted as local. You can also filter by status. It automatically reports on open and closed. You may ask, why do you keep the closed ones in? Well, ultimately, that's because sometimes they do reopen. And what you're doing within the system is allowing yourself, once you've saved a search, to be sent email alerts, which will identify any new funds that meet the criteria that you've put into the system. And if they reopen, you'll be one of the first to know about it. So as you can see, that means you're not going to miss out on any funding opportunities. And that's why we give you the option of leaving the closed ones in there. So let's assume that everything that sits over here is okay, and we're not applying any filter. You can sort these results to the left-hand side in alphabetical order. So that will now change it to all funds, but in alphabetical order. So as you can see, starting with the A's. You can also filter by deadline. So by deadline, obviously that means it's fast approaching application cutoff. And as you can see, you've got a Football Federation Foundation in there, which is closing on the 19th. That's in there because you are that is also a sports and cultural organisation, as is the Angling Improvement Fund. You can streamline by funding provider, and that tends to be numeric first, but then alphabetical order, as you can see. You can also streamline by geographic scope, and that, like I say, will take it back to local, regional, national, and European. And obviously, starting at the local, as a local club, one would assume that that local organisation has more interest in funding a local organisation. So you can also fund by maximum value. So by clicking that, it will take, when I say maximum value, it takes the smaller ones to the top and then works down in value, or up in value, I should say, sorry. As you may have noticed, we left the closed ones in. And if you filter by status, then that will put it in open and closed. So as you can see, you don't have to sift through all of them. There's ways that you can use the filter to the right-hand side to get to the information that you need to. And once you've got to the information to a standard that you think is what you can work with, you can then start saving the search or saving selected items and producing reports. So I'm going to quickly show you how to save a search. It's very easy. All you do is click Save Search. So that will save everything that's reported in here. So you can name this West Midlands, because we're basing it on the West Midlands. West Midlands grants. Excuse my typo. If you wanted to add comments in there, you can, and everything you're putting in here now will sit in My Saved Searches, and I'll show you where that sits in a moment. And again, going back to the importance of email notification, we will now send you, if you tick this box here, we will now send you an email of anything new, and that might be brand spanking new, that comes into the forum or into the criteria that this search that you're saving is based upon. So that could be absolutely not heard of before. Equally, if it's a fund that reopens having been closed, you'll get notification that AB fund has reopened if you leave the closed ones in the actual search. So if you click OK now, that will now sit back at the top of the page in saved searches. And if you click on Save Search, you'll see that there you've got West Midlands grants. Okay, so you might notice on this page that you've got something called funding portfolios. And a funding portfolio may be project specific. So what you might do is you might go through a number of the reported grants and think, okay, so this grant, we really like the look of that one. That's about social isolation. And you've had a read of that one. That doesn't fit the bill. That one does. So what you're doing is you're not taking them out of this main saved report, but what you're doing is almost siloing them into either project or titles, depending on how you want to manage it. And this is basically known as a portfolio. So it gives you an opportunity to have a look at it, take it out of the equation, and I suppose prioritize it. So it might be, you could call it priority grants. So for purposes of now, we'll call it priority grants. So as you can see here, you've got Save Search and Save Selected Items. So all you do now by identifying which of those you want to put in the portfolio by ticking them is Save Selected Items. If you've already got existing funding portfolios and you just wanted to save these because they fall into the same category, you'll have a drop down option in here of whatever that funding portfolio might be. So that will build in time of you using the system. But this is a new search, or this is a new portfolio. So all you do is click save to a new list and you identify by naming it what that list might be. So we initially said social isolation. However, this might be priority grants or whatever you choose to call it, priority grants. And all you do is click save. And again, similar situation, similar location, that sits back up in save searches. And in the save search, as you notice, we've got the main one here, West Midlands Grant, still there. You can get rid of that if you wanted to by deleting. But as you can see, that the three that we identified in the previous step are now set here with priority grants. So if you wanted to go back to priority grants, there's one last thing I would like to show you today, and that is producing a Word report. So you can produce a Word report on within any function within the system. I'm choosing to show you under the portfolio. So all you need to do is select all or any variety of these here. And as you can see here, by selecting all, what you've done now is identify all three of them. And what you're doing now is telling the system, I want to produce a Word report. You can take these out if you wanted to. As you can see, you've got an edit portfolio. If you wanted to produce a report, all you do is click produce a report, call the report priority grants. Prepared for Bowls. Let's just call it West Midlands Bowls Club. And you can either download that as a Word document, which you can then change to suit. You can put your logos in that. Really quite handy, I think, when we're in the situation that we find ourselves in. You can send this out to all members if you want and say, you know, let's have a conversation about this. Alternatively, you can email it. And all you would need to do is put in an existing user's email address in there. I won't show you that because it actually takes me out of the demonstration, but take it for granted that it's a fully amendable Word document, and you can probably get anything up to 300 different schemes in a Word document. It's obviously a little bit of paperwork, but equally, you know, that can and does get done quite regularly for communication purposes. So in essence, that is how you would use the Bowls England funding portal. Just to reiterate, help and advice is here in the user guide. The URL, i.e. where do you find it, is there. And my name's Matthew Godfrey, and my email address is matthew.godfrey@idoxgroup.com. I will now be sending this recording to the guys at Bowls England, and they will then cascade that and send that out to you. So all the best in the future. If you do need any further assistance, please feel free to ask. And yeah, all the best. Thank you very much indeed for time. Bye-bye.